And I will say, prepare to receive. Step back. You will put your pike right there in the sole of your right foot. Yes, you want to step back with your right foot to leave your left foot still. So, like this. Put your pike here. Nope. There. Yeah. Put it on your back foot. Try to turn your back foot sideways. Nope. Your back foot. They hit a winner. We like that. Well, see how I have it? I know it's confusing. Like that. Okay. Like that, and with your left hand, you're going to come down. So I say prepare to receive, and then I'll say horse, and I start chopping this tree here. You come down, you have it to the level of a horse's belly. Notice I'm only holding it with one hand, but I'll show you something first. Stay there, like that. I'm putting a lot of weight on here, and I'm not a light guy. So unless they're talking to somebody else. Weapon develops because it got shorter, the barrel becomes thinner, not firing as big a caliber. We're not firing cast iron balls. And the technology is becoming better at making a barrel. The theory was the thicker the barrel, the more stable. Well, in 17th and 15th century technology was not always the case. This is going to play manufacturers with artillery up until the beginning of the 20th. You see all these big, huge iron guns. You look at them, they're compensating for the weakness in the iron. The same here, they're compensating for the weakness in the steel. Again, they were really concentrating these two parts. Penetrating armor, trying to. So they developed rest, which, if you could see me down there firing, I'm trying to keep up with the Cavalier drill, the regular electrical drill, and I'm using a rest. There's 40-some steps to their drill. There's 5 additional ones there after this thing. And what you can do is.
Time.
What's that?
Max effective range, 1,680 yards. Can you see that far? What couldn't you do during the time of the Civil War to make this effective?
Spotters.
Right, your forward observers were on horseback. How long did it take them to ride out there? How long did it take them to ride back? Well, they were 50 yards over that rise. Well, where are they now? That was 10 minutes ago. Where are they now? Useless. All right. Advantage, shoots further, more accurate. Disadvantage, what does it do when it hits the ground?
Stops.
It stops. It sticks in the ground. What does round ball do? It bounces, it rolls, it skips. I shoot short with round ball, it continues forward. I shoot short with that, where'd it go? Didn't see it land, don't know. Advantage, smooth bore. Also a great advantage in caliber. 3-inch ordnance rifle or 10-pounder Parrott 292-inch bore Parrott, 4.62-inch 12-pounder Napoleon. Bigger is sometimes better. Exploding ball. This could be shell or case shot. Inside this, if it were K-shot, it would have 76 69 caliber lead or iron balls. I would want that to burst in the air way back here, 50 to 75 yards in front of you, so I had plenty of time for all those little pieces to fan out, hopefully cutting a hole in your line. Now the beauty with Napoleonic tactics to an artilleryman is what happens when I cut a hole in your line. You do what? You fill the hole. Where's my next shot go?
Same
Same
place.
spot. No brainer, right? Now if this is shell, it's just that. It's an empty shell with an exploding charge inside, and it's just meant to fragment. I would want that to burst right about here, cutting a smaller hole in your line, producing the same effect. You fill the hole, I fire back in the same spot. Now, close range, 350 yards or less, I have this nasty little booger here. Anybody know what this is called? This is canister. 12-pounder canister contains 27 half-pound, inch-and-a-half iron balls. Think that iron ball stops when it tears through your body?
No.
No. Would it stop when it tore through that tree at 980 feet a second? No. This is what comes out of it, 27 of these.
Ow.
Very common misconception. You did hear me say 350 yards or less, right? Some people will tell you it turns that into a big shotgun. Anybody ever see a shotgun that would shoot 350 yards? No. Misconception. Canister is fired into the ground in front of your intended target. Can breaks apart. The balls bounce through you. Think if that hit your arm, it'd tear it off?
Yeah.
Think it'd tear off your leg?
Yeah.
If it hit you in the gut, you were certainly dead. If it hit you in the face, you were certainly dead. Awful little round. Little pop gun, 3-inch ordnance rifle, 16 1-inch balls. Almost double your effective killing capacity at close range just by having this cannon. That being said, numbers don't lie. The federal government had 4 of these guns when the American Civil War broke out. By the First Battle of Manassas, they had 9. By the end of 1861, they had 39. By the end of the American Civil War, they'd made 1,157 of these 12-pounder Napoleons. Out of bronze, very expensive material today. It was very, very expensive material then. So that should tell you something, that it was a pretty good at its job, which was to kill people. Now, on the battlefield, doesn't matter how many you kill because they're just going to keep filling that hole. Sure, it's fun for the first couple times to blow a big hole in their line. The idea is to get them not to come any further towards you, right? So you do whatever you had to do to get them to turn around and go the other way. Because limbering up this gun, getting the horses attached and everything else and getting out of there is a daunting task. I'd want to turn them however I could do it. And I've read accounts of them baiting the enemy, hiding the Napoleons beyond a swell or in the wood line or something, letting them get in within about 500 yards, unveiling them, loading them with solid shot and firing through their lines. Imagine being the guy beside the guy that just got struck with that 12-pound ball, say in the chest. And you were able to turn just in time to see the trunk of his body fall into the ground and a very fine red mist. Would that do something to you psychologically? Absolutely. What do I have to do? I have to do this. Fill that hole. No, I'm going that way. So that was what you tried to do. Didn't matter how many you killed, it mattered whether or not you had an effect on the enemy. You'll read about these things in diaries. You hear them calling the old war dogs, talk about the old war dogs barking. They'll devote pages in their diaries to taking batteries of Napoleons and paragraphs to taking batteries of rifle guns. More than double the powder charge of one of these little rifles, so it was a lot louder. More fear. Right? You heard a Napoleon go off, you knew what it was. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
When you've blown the person apart, do the bones and stuff become shrapnel as well?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. If they're not vaporized. It depends on what you get. Now certainly, you know, shooting wooden ships and stuff like that, you would do it with a much heavier piece than this, hopefully. And the wooden ships became shrapnel as well. So absolutely with the bones.
What's it weigh?
The gun itself weighs 1,234 pounds, just a tube. Carriage weighs probably a little more than that.
How many horses would you have to pull the
Early in the war, they would use 6. Later in the war, due to the depletion of horses, they used 4. 1.2 to 1.4 million horses are estimated to have been killed during the American Civil War. So, lost a few, yeah. Entire breeds were eradicated. Any other questions?
What's the advantage of this particular type of material over something else for the body of the cannon?
It's not an advantage with a rifled gun. And it's really not an advantage with a smoothbore cannon. But until about 1856, they didn't have a reliable means of producing wrought iron, which was a much stronger material and not as brittle as cast iron. So up to this point, up to the mid-1850s, you only had a choice, really, unless you were going to use a welded seam wrought iron, which failed on the USS Princeton and killed the Secretary of State, the Secretary of the Navy, and I think 5 other guys. So they kind of quit with the wrought iron. Cast iron was too brittle, and bronze is really too soft. If you go out to Petersburg National Battlefield and you look at some of the original cannons out there, you'll see the grooves and the wear inside of them. But as far as they were malleable enough not to burst, but you had a problem with Parrott cannons, Parrott rifles. They were cast iron with a wrought iron breech band. They got a band around the base of them. And they were just as dangerous to you shooting it as they were to the enemy downrange because the tubes would burst. In 1856, I believe, Phoenix Metal Company in Pennsylvania, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, came up with what they called a Griffin gun. They built 1 or 2. The U.S. government tested them as a new means of making wrought iron. Basically, they took a billet, they wrapped it much like a Damascus twist with rolled iron, this way, then that way again. They superheated it till it welded itself together, then they counterbored it, rifled it. The first one that the U.S. government tested, they fired 501 rounds out of it with no bore distortion whatsoever. They loaded it with 2 rounds, 2 service loads, 2 projectiles, fired it. They loaded it with 3 pounds, 3 projectiles, fired it. Wound up taking 7 pounds of powder and 13 projectiles to burst that tube. So they found a good strong metal that wasn't brittle. But that wasn't until mid-1850s. And your 3-inch ordnance rifle is made out of this type of wrought iron.
So how long would one like this last?
Means you're going to, yeah, now. I moved my body back. Go ahead. You were just going to touch me. You're just touching me. Likewise, I would just, in fact, let me switch weapons so I can be a little more dramatic with this. I'll get my distance, okay? Now, my distance from right here, so let me just touch you, okay? Don't want that foot to leave the ground, but I can just barely touch you. I'm going to move another foot closer, okay? So right there. That would be our normal on guard. Now, we're walking around, we're dancing around, okay?
Seems like you both have
Nobody,
sword
yep,
as well.
Yep, nobody knows who's doing what. And I just barely touched him with that sword. I'm 2 feet closer to him right now than when we started. Anybody believe me? I'm 2 feet closer. I barely touched him before. Watch this, don't move. What did I do? What did no one see me do? Huh? Watch this foot. This is the anchor foot. This is what determines my distance to him. I got closer to him, but he didn't get any closer to me. In this stance, this foot here, it was all I could do to touch him. Okay? Without moving my shoulders or head, which is where he's really, really looking, I did this. In fact, I could even move back a little bit to give him the illusion that I've increased the distance. And now when I do a thrust and a lunge, that's how far it goes. He's still the same distance from me. So believe it or not, I can get closer to him without him getting closer to me, simply by footwork. Which if you take a good historical fencing class, that's going to be the first 3 weeks of lessons, is footwork. So you just got a first 3 lessons. This would be held, let me show you how that's held. This is not a threatening weapon, it's a defensive weapon. So it's held, the reason it's flat right there on the grip is for your thumb. It's held like this. And I can defend myself. There's no part of my body that you can see without that blade passing in front of it at some point. So if you come in for an attack at any point on my body, I can push that attack aside. Once I defended, then I attack. Now,